All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today's training is the basics of parliamentary procedure and open meetings. I know a lot of you might be wondering why we're here. With the recent change in the commission meeting format, Commissioner Storm at the beginning of the year asked that I put this training together. It's clearly been delayed a little bit due to COVID, but we do have it together, and we've got all of our new members participating now. So we've got this together. As I said previously, I'm not an expert in parliamentary procedure, but I'm used to researching things and interpreting rules and laws, as is Daniel. So we are available upon request to research any sort of issue of parliamentary procedure that you might want us to look into. If there is a specific scenario you'd like us to review, just let us know. So what is parliamentary procedure? It's a set of rules for conduct at meetings which allows all members to be heard and to conduct business in an organized fashion. Robert's Rules of Order was originally published in 1876 and has been revised many times and adopted by most organizations as a guide to parliamentary procedure. This particular training utilizes the rules found in Robert's Rules of Order. We have the, well, I don't know if my background's going to show us that. We have a couple of books we're using, and this one won't come through. You have the full version, and then Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in brief. The commission asked that we base the training on the abbreviated version of the rules. Sometimes in the abbreviated versions, they do reference the longer version, so we have both books. This abbreviated version was amended to the 3rd edition and adopted into the bylaws when they were recently adopted. For some reason the title isn't showing it through on mine. Kentucky governmental bodies are required to conduct business during meetings open to the public. As a governmental body, the Fish and Wildlife Commission must adhere to the open meetings requirements established in KRS Chapter 61, also known as the Open Meetings Act. During the COVID emergency, some of the open meeting rules have been relaxed for RS 20, Senate Bill 150. So we'll talk about a couple of those as we go through. Open meetings requirements supersede any conflicting rules of parliamentary procedure. As such, the open meeting statutes are being covered in this training as they govern the scheduling and conduct of meetings. And as being subject to the Open Meetings Act, it ties so closely with parliamentary procedure. I have included some coverage of open meetings in the training. Okay, what are open meetings? There's the title finally. Oh, I have some sort of weird automation. I apologize. I'm not real well versed in PowerPoint, obviously. Okay, so when is an open meeting required? All meetings with a quorum of the commission where public business is discussed or action is taken shall be public meetings. Public meetings shall be open to the public at all times unless specifically covered by an exception. Those exceptions are found in KRS 61-810, subsection 1. Here we are utilizing this training as if it's a special called meeting for the commission, and that is, since we're discussing the behavior and the method of conduct at commission meetings, it touches on public business, and so forth. Therefore, we have called it as a special called meeting in case there was a quorum of members able to attend. A series of separate discussions on a particular topic by members of the commission would violate the Open Meetings Act if the total number of members party to the discussions reaches a quorum and the separate discussions are held to avoid open meeting requirements, KRS 61-810, subsection 2. So basically 3 commission members can't meet, and then one of those meet with 2 more, and then 2 more, and so forth, to avoid the open meetings requirements. So that's why we always do our meetings in public at the office or via these Zoom meetings. This doesn't prohibit discussions between individual members where the purpose is to educate the members on specific issues. So one member of the commission could talk about a particular new weapon type, for example, and be describing that weapon type to the other members to talk about how it works and to educate them on a particular issue. So what is a quorum? A quorum is the number of members that must be present at a meeting to conduct business. For the Fish and Wildlife Commission, a quorum requires a majority of members to be present. Generally, a quorum is 5 members, but this number may change if there are 2 or more unfilled commission member positions. So if 2 members were to resign and move to Florida, the quorum would be 4 until those seats were filled. And that keeps changing according to how many seats we have. So 1 member resigned and moved to Florida, we would still have a quorum of 5 because there would still be 8 members. I'm sorry. Kentucky law permits a member to be present electronically through a video teleconference call so long as they can be seen and heard. The meeting must be suspended if there's any interruption in the teleconference signal pursuant to KRS 61-826 and KRS 61-805 subsection 5. This is the primary requirement that has been relaxed during the COVID-19 emergency. So if one member's signal goes down during our Zoom call, we can continue a meeting so long as there was a quorum and still conduct business. Also, during the state of emergency, audio conference is sufficient as well if we're not able to do a teleconference and don't have the technological capacity to do so. So a member during COVID could call in rather than being seen on the video. They could be just audio. Scheduling requirements for open meetings. Meetings are to be held at specific times and places which are convenient to the public. The schedule of regular meetings shall be made available to the public, and that's pursuant to KRS 61-820 subsection 1. Special meetings may be called by the commission chairperson or majority of the members, and that's under KRS 61-823 subsection 2. Written notice of a special meeting consisting of the date, time, place of the meeting, and the meeting agenda shall be distributed so as to be received at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. And that's pursuant to 61-823 subsections 3 and 4. In addition to the standard open meetings requirements, the commission's regularly scheduled meetings must abide by the requirements found in KRS 150-023. And that is, they must meet in Frankfurt at least quarterly. Notice shall be provided no less than 7 days before the meeting date. Setting of the agenda. The agendas are drafted by department staffs. Items to be included on the agenda are determined by requests from department staff as approved by the commissioner or deputy commissioner, commission members' requests, and commission directives from prior meetings. Rights of members. Members, being the commission members, have the right to attend meetings, make motions, speak in debate, and vote. The public rights are different than those of members. Pursuant to statute, commission meetings are open to the public. Individuals may not be required to identify themselves as a condition of attendance. Non-members are not entitled to speak without invitation, nor are they permitted to disrupt the proceedings. Traditionally, the commission has invited certain members or non-members to speak during meetings. Generally, the chair determines who is invited to speak, subject to any rules in the bylaws or potential appeals by a member. Examples include the department staff generally gives presentations for each of the agenda items. We receive public comment from those in attendance. And to circle back around on the requirement to identify themselves, we do require people making public comment to identify themselves, but it is not a condition of attending the meeting. It's only a condition of making public comment. Then legal staff also provides guidance regarding statutes, regulations, parliamentary procedure, and then we often have guest speakers as well. The chairman has specific authority, and that is as follows. The chairman can decide in what order speakers shall be recognized. They can refuse to recognize members offering dilatory, absurd, or frivolous motions. They can restrain speakers within the limits of the rules, enforce good decorum, appoint committees subject to the commission's bylaws. However, the commission is currently not utilizing committees. They can decide points of order, and they have the authority to vote in cases where the vote would make or break a tie. That was a recent question that came up in a commission meeting, and we had to run quickly and do some research on that one. And then finally, the chair should avoid influencing a vote by his own comment on a motion. And basically, the chair attempts to remain neutral to the vote until it becomes an issue where somebody has to break a tie. And a meeting has several different parts. Initially, they'll be called to order. Oftentimes, there are opening ceremonies, and then a roll call of the present commission members or committee members, whatever the case may be. And then you have business. And then as part of business, you may have executive session. It is not necessarily something that occurs in every meeting, but it may for certain discussions. And we also have an adjournment. Now, obviously, business will continue after the executive session. That's a sub part of business. As in executive session, there is no voting.
Stephen?
Yes.
May I interrupt you? On the roll call, usually when I start that meeting, I usually say, let the record show all 9 members are in attendance today. Is that sufficient to go on the record as saying everybody was there instead of have one all say present, present, present? Is just the recognition by the chairman that all members are present? Is that good enough to in lieu of the actual roll call?
It's sufficient. I've fast forwarded here a little bit. There is a more formal way of doing a roll call where an individual, normally the secretary or a member of the support staff, will do a roll call. When dealing with a 9-person commission, we've acknowledged each individual is either present or not present. That suffices.
Okay.
Someone objected to it, I think they would have the right to object to it if one of the members did, but I can't see it being a problem with anybody.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Call to order. The chairman shall begin the meeting by calling it to order, as Chairman Kleiner routinely does. And I just gave an example of, hey, here's how somebody would call a meeting to order. Good morning, everybody. It is such and such time, and I'm calling the such and such date meeting of the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Commission to order. It's fairly simple, just to alert everybody that the meeting has officially started. Opening ceremonies. After the call to order, the chair may initiate any opening ceremonies. They generally will include a customary greeting, invocation, pledge. The commission sometimes likes to recognize individuals or organizations on their accomplishments or their efforts to support the department's mission. That oftentimes occurs during the opening ceremonies as well. No official action actually takes place during the opening ceremonies. Roll call must occur before any action is taken. And as we discussed previously, after the call to order and any opening ceremonies, the chair shall request the secretary or support staff to perform a roll call. As I stated, as long as none of the members object to a more informal roll call, I believe that would be sufficient, as long as we acknowledge which members are and are not present. If there is not a quorum, business may not be conducted. Efforts may be made to contact commission members or to have more attend to achieve a quorum. The meeting may be recessed until such time as a quorum is available or adjourned until the next meeting. A meeting may not continue per open meetings rules or statutes to another day without providing public notice for the date of the continuance. As such, the duration of a recess is limited to a period of time during the publicly noticed date of the meeting. So if we break lunch and 4 of the commission members or 5 of the commission members don't come back from lunch for one reason or another, we can't delay till the next day, but we could wait 4 or 5 hours if need be to have them get back. It just needs to occur on the same day. Business. Once a quorum is identified, the commission may begin its business. Each commission meeting will have an agenda as to the business to be covered during the meeting. Regular meetings may utilize the agenda as a guide for keeping the meeting on track, but the commission does have authority to deviate from the agenda. The commission may choose to adopt the agenda via a motion and limit themselves to consider only the items on the agenda. So routinely during a normal, regular meeting, the commission is not tied to the agenda. They can consider something that's off of the agenda. Open meetings, while regular meetings may deviate from the agenda, special called meetings must adhere to the published agenda items. So in a special called meeting, we can't deviate. It is required to stick only to those agenda items. The chair will identify the agenda item to be discussed by the commission. Once an item reaches its resolution, the chair will identify the next agenda item for discussion. In general, the reading and approval of minutes will be the first agenda item for each meeting. Once again, we are not tied to the specific order of the agenda. If someone were to move to adopt the agenda, then the order would also be, we would have that order if that motion passed. For flexibility, I don't think the commission generally does that. Did somebody have a question? Okay, I thought I heard somebody. Basic procedures. The commission may only focus on one subject at a time. Generally, this means one motion must be resolved before considering another motion. There are a few exceptions to this general rule, which we'll cover later in the training. Only one individual may hold the floor, i.e. have authority to speak at a time. To gain the floor, a member must first be recognized by the chair. And we go into some examples. A member wishing to speak should signal the chair by saying Mr. Chairman or Madam Chairwoman. The member should then wait until the chair recognizes them. The chair will recognize the member by stating their name or stating that they have the floor. If someone else already has the floor, a member wishing to speak should wait until the current speaker concludes their statements before signaling the chair. And basically, this is just a basic tenet of parliamentary procedure. Let one person talk at a time. If everybody's talking at once, it's like at my grandma's house, what anybody's saying. So each member should have an opportunity to speak before any other member speaks for a second time. So everybody gets a turn. Then if you want to talk some more, you can circle back around to you once everybody else that wants to speak has an opportunity to do so. Generally, no member should interrupt a speaker. A speaker may only be interrupted for certain urgent matters, which will also be covered later in the training. Once a member has the floor, they may discuss the issue at hand and present their thoughts or opinions or make a motion. All remarks should be made to the chair, not other members or the audience. So anybody speaking should be addressing the chair rather than talking across the table or into the audience. Making motions. When a member wishes to make a motion, the following should occur. Speak in a clear and concise manner. State the motion affirmatively, such as I move that we do X, not I move that we don't do Y. motion should be affirmative. Once a motion is made, the member should wait for another member to second the motion. If another member does not immediately second the motion, the chair will call for a second. If there is no second, the motion is lost and does not move forward. Lost is a term used in parliamentary procedure. I felt compelled to put it in here, but basically the motion ends. That's the end of that motion if it doesn't get a second. If the motion is seconded, the motion will be put before the body, i.e. everybody will get to discuss it and or vote on it. Once a motion has been made and seconded, the chair will put the motion before the body by acknowledging the movement and the second, then restating the motion. And so it has been moved by Mrs. Doe and seconded by Mr. Smith that we do X. Beginning in the December meeting, the department will also include a slide as part of the presentation of their presentation for each agenda item, detailing the action the department is requesting the commission to take. This slide should provide a useful starting point for any member's motions, whether it be to accept the department's recommendation in whole, to accept it in part, to reject it fully, or to put forth a completely different proposal. The idea with this is to make it so it's just easier, an easier starting point on any motions that are going to be made, and easier for minutes to be kept on the precise language of the motions. In addition to the standard motion to bring business before the assembly, there are numerous procedural motions available to members during a meeting. Motions will fall into three broad categories. You have main motions, and they have an order of preference and may only be brought at certain times. Motions with a higher preference may interrupt a motion currently before the assembly. And this sounds way more complicated than it really is, just FYI. It tends to make clear sense on when you need to interrupt or bring another motion ahead of something else. Additionally, there's incidental motions. These motions may arise at any time and are decided immediately. Then there are motions that bring a question again before the assembly. Believe that's a typo. Again, shouldn't have been there. I apologize. These motions may only arise when nothing else is pending before the assembly. Motion charts. So the next few charts include, the next few slides include charts that summarize the various motions that may be made during a meeting. A motion may be introduced by a member who has the floor unless it is noted in the following charts under interrupt as yes. So if the chart says interrupt yes, then a member may interrupt another speaker or another member that has the floor to make this motion. The motions on the following main motions chart are listed in order of preference. Those higher on the list can be introduced, while lower motion on the list is before the assembly. Those lower on the list may not be introduced until a higher motion is resolved. Okay, so these are listed in order of precedence, and if they are higher on the list, you can move even if another motion is pending. Now, there's a difference between moving for a higher order of precedence motion and interrupting. So they'll have the column interrupt, which I'm not sure. Can you all see my mouse when I'm moving it around?
I do not see one moving. I
Okay.
see your screen, but I don't see the mouse.
Okay, I'll quit trying to point with it then, because I've been pointing as I've been going along. I hope I didn't skip anything for anybody not seeing where I was talking about. So if you look at this chart, you have the purpose and then how a member would move for that motion, whether or not it can be used to interrupt a current speaker, and whether or not a second is needed, whether or not it's entitled to debate, and whether it can be amended, and what kind of vote needs to be received for it to pass. So we'll do a quick run through of these motions. In the meeting, if somebody wants to end the meeting, they move to adjourn. If somebody needs a break, they move for a recess. to register a complaint. And these are specific wording for motions. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but if you don't get the exact wording right, you can say what you mean, if that makes sense. I'm following the specific wording in parliamentary procedure and Robert's rules, but if you have a complaint about something you don't, and you can't remember, I rise to a question of privilege, say, hey, I think something's wrong. I move that this is not correct, and that'll be sufficient. The same for, I call for the orders of the day, and some of them are a little bit terms of art, others are kind of self-explanatory. But so to register a complaint, I rise to the question of privilege, and that one is the first that can interrupt somebody. So basically, if you think something is happening that shouldn't be happening and is against the rules in some fashion, you can make this motion then and there. You don't have to wait. And then follow the agenda. Now, as we stated previously, the agendas are a little bit more fluid for us due to the open meetings rules, unless it's a special called meeting. And so lay aside temporarily, which is basically, let's talk about this a little bit later. Close debate. I move the previous question. That is to say, let's stop talking and let's start voting. Limit or extend debate, and that's to narrow the issues. Postpone to a certain time. Refer to a committee, work group, or department staff. This one happens fairly frequently if you want to find more information out on a particular issue and have the department look into something for you. Modify the wording of a motion, kill the main motion, and bring business before the assembly. Now, 10, bring business before the assembly is the standard motion most people think of. I move to do whatever I think the commission should do. And so these get a little bit confusing, but we'll go over some of the bigger ones in a minute. Then you have the incidental motions, enforcing rules, submit matter before the assembly, suspend rules, avoid motion altogether, divide motion, demand a rising vote, parliamentary law question, request for information. These each have language and indicate whether or not they can interrupt and so forth. And the final group, motions to bring a question back before the assembly, take a matter from table, cancel the previous action, reconsider motion. Okay, so as I was saying previously, the motion charts include a number of specific motions with precise language on how the motion is to be made. While this language is generally a shorthand to establish the specific request being made, a member can make such a motion using common language. And I had an example. A member could say, I call for the orders of the day, or could say, I move that we follow the agenda. Either would suffice and are equivalent to each other. And to go over a few of the specific motions covered in the charts. For regular meetings, the subject matter of a meeting is not specifically restricted to the agenda items. As such, a call for the orders of the day isn't fully applicable to the regular meetings. As stated previously, the commission could specifically adopt the agenda during a meeting, and that would restrict the subject matter to the agenda items. For special called meetings, the meeting is restricted to the subject matters listed in the agenda pursuant to the open meetings statutes. As such, a call for the orders of the day would be fully applicable for special called meetings. A call for orders of the day is available in any meeting when a question has been set before the present time and is now in order, but the matter is not being taken up. Basically, that's saying, hey, we're supposed to talk about this. Let's talk about this now. Debating motions. Once a motion is before the body, the membership may debate the motion or move directly to a vote. The discussion follows the normal rules for speaking, except the movement always gets to speak first. And so that goes back to only one member speaking at a time. You only get to speak once before you get to speak again, you have to wait until it's your turn again. If you're the one moving, you get to be the first speaker. Once the discussion concludes, the chair asks the membership if they are ready to vote on the question. If there is no further comment, the vote is taken. A member may ask to close debate even when it's ongoing by stating, I move the previous question. Or they could say, I move to close debate. A vote will immediately be taken to end the debate. A 2/3 majority is required to end the debate. Anything less, and the debate continues. And so basically, if I'm one of the members and I am just completely convinced that my way is the way, and even though all 8 other members disagree with me and I won't stop talking, eventually somebody could move the previous question or move to close debate to get on with it, so to speak. Amending a motion. Once a motion has been placed before the body, it may not be amended without consent by the members. To amend a motion before the body, the member who has the floor may so move by stating, I move to amend the motion by, and then explaining the change. If the motion is seconded, the motion to amend takes precedence over the original motion. Debate proceeds as to the merits of the amendment to the motion. If the motion to amend passes a vote, the merits of the amended motion may then be debated and voted on. If the motion to amend fails, discussion of the original motion continues and the original motion is unchanged, which is a whole lot of words to say. If somebody thinks we need to add a caveat to a motion or slightly change it, everybody has to vote to agree to change the motion before they discuss it. And then if they don't agree, they go forward discussing the original motion.
Stephen, let me ask you a question on that. If David makes a motion, someone else during the discussion or the debate of that motion makes a suggestion, I know it would have to be voted upon to amend it if he does that. But if David says, well, that's a reasonable request. So in my motion, I move that we also add that. In other words, if the original person making the motion adds a suggestion of someone else, does it have to go through this process or only go through this process if a second person wants to amend the first motion?
If I state the motion and while I'm still speaking, I misstated my motion, I believe I could correct it at that point because the question hasn't ensued. But once a second member has started the discussion and taken the floor, I do think we need to amend the motion officially.
Okay.
That just slows things.
Yeah, sometimes I think we've done that. Somebody will make a suggestion and whoever made the original motion then says, well, that's a good idea. So my motion then is we do that on Monday, Wednesdays, and we do it on Fridays, as has been pointed out to me by somebody else. And I guess we've let them go through that way because it's a little complicated to go first, vote on the amended part of the motion that somebody has made and then going back. So I guess we may have in the past skipped a step or two or modified or allowed the original movant to modify his motion a little bit before it was voted on.
And any member in the past, if somebody had a problem with that, they could actually move order and hey, that's not allowed, or you need to do it this way. And without somebody objecting to it and moving for a point of order, I think you were probably fine.
Okay.
It is just a method to slow things down and make sure everybody's always on the same page on exactly what the motion is. And there's no confusion on what am I voting for? Am I voting Monday and Wednesday, or am I voting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday?
Right. Okay.
It just
gotcha.
Clearly delineates that, I believe, is the purpose there.
Thank you.
Anytime, feel free to jump in anytime you have a question. And I'll send a copy of this PowerPoint to everybody so you will have it.
Super.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, we didn't finish that one. Okay, requests and inquiries. Parliamentary inquiry. is used when a member wishes to request information about rules or procedures applying to a situation. The member may ask the chair a parliamentary inquiry. Parliamentary inquiries do not involve a ruling. Basically, just then we had that, you had that question, Chairman Kleiner. That would be a parliamentary inquiry. And so somebody could address that question to you, and you could ask that I'll look into it and invite me to speak on that if you wished.
Sure.
Or one of the other attorneys or so forth. A request for information, also known as a point of information, is an inquiry as to the facts affecting the business at hand. A request for information is directed to the chair or another member through the chair. And that's just, as it sounds, an inquiry asking about more facts based upon whatever they're discussing. A request for permission to withdraw or modify a motion. After a motion has been read by the chair, the moving party may move to withdraw or change the motion as stated by the chair. It may only be granted by the assembly. Prior to the reading by the chair, the movement may freely withdraw or modify the motion. And that goes back to what we were talking about.
Right.
If the movement's still talking and it hasn't officially been placed before the commission, the movement can modify their motion. But once it gets before the assembly, it does need to follow the particulars of amending a motion. A request to read papers. A request to be permitted to read from a book, paper, newspaper, etc. as part of their speech. Such requests require unanimous consent by other members. However, consent customarily is approved absent abuse or exceptional time constraints. A member need not request to read papers when simply referencing their own notes. So if I decide, I'm a member and I decide I need to read cover to cover a study on the reading habits of black bears, and it's a 45-page single-spaced document, that might be a problem. But in general, it's generally not going to be a problem as long as it doesn't impact everyone in an abusive fashion or exceeds the time constraints for the meeting. A request for any other privilege. A request for any other privilege is a request used by someone wishing to perform an action that is otherwise not allowed. Examples would be a member making a presentation when no motion is pending, a non-member requesting to address the body, etc. These requests are normally settled by unanimous consent or informally. If there is an objection, a motion may be made to grant the request. Voting. The method of voting will either be based upon the situation or bylaws of the organization. There are various commonly used methods of voting, including by voice, which is traditionally what the commission does. The chair asks those in favor to say "A" or "Nay," or well, I guess it says here "No." By roll call, and the chair will ask each member by name in turn for a yes or a no vote. General consent. This method is generally used for motions that likely will not be contested. And the chairman would state, if there's no objection, and silence passes the motion. If a member objects, they state such, and the matter must go to an actual vote. By division or rising, it's similar to by voice, except the members either raise their hand or stand to indicate their vote. And then by ballot. Traditionally, this is going to be with the special commission permits is the traditional time this is used. By ballot, members write their vote on a ballot. Parliamentary procedure normally lets that be secret ballot. However, per open records, to comply with open records and record retention rules, ballots are to be retained. The member corresponding to a ballot shall be identified on the ballot to comply with open meetings rules. So we don't have secret votes. As a public entity, we do everything in the open. Closed sessions. The commission meetings must be open unless there is an exception in statute to conduct a closed session. Those exceptions are found in 61.810. The commission may conduct closed sessions to discuss acquisition or sale of real property, proposed or pending litigation, appointment, discipline, or dismissal for our commission, the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Commissioner, and any other applicable provisions under 61.810. Closed sessions. To enter a closed session, a member must move to do so and have the majority pass a vote, or a motion passed by a majority. Prior to entering closed session, ARS 61.815 requires the announcement during the open session of the general nature and business of the business to be discussed, the reason for the closed session, and the provision of 61.810 that authorizes the closed session. And Chairman Kleiner has a script that he has me put together from prior to closed sessions that he normally reads into the record to comply with these rules. During a closed session, the commission may only discuss the items announced prior to entering, and they may not vote. All votes on the business discussed must occur in open session. And this is something we do routinely with land acquisitions. We don't normally call it land plot A, plot B, and so forth. And in conclusion, I know I've ran through a lot of material today, and I know some of those motions on the motion charts might be a little bit confusing. I doubt we'll use a lot of them very often, but if you have any questions regarding what we have covered, please let me know. If you have any specific scenario you'd like me to research, please feel free to let me know or let Daniel know, and we can look into it and get back to you. But that's all I had.
Let me ask you on closed sessions, if I may, Stephen, on executive sessions. Executive sessions are, I assume, by invitation only. In other words, we can limit who sits in on an executive session. Our attorneys, like in your case, you, our attorneys, but if we want to limit who sits in on that, we can limit who sits in on executive session. Is that not correct?
Off the top of my head, I believe that is, but I will look into it and get you a specific answer.
Okay. I've always understood that executive session is by invitation only. So if I want you to sit in on it, but I don't want Evan to sit in on it, let's say, then I believe I can ask for only you to be sitting in on that. I just wondered if you knew the exact on that, but if you'll look it up, that would help. And it's not that I'm trying to deliberately leave anybody out. I just don't want maybe somebody eavesdropping on a discussion that I'd like our legal staff to be sitting in on, but maybe not others. And I can't think of anything, personnel issues and some of those things. I'd like to keep, and I'm sure any other member would like to keep that pretty close, that hand pretty close to our vest, instead of involving people that might discuss it outside of the purview of what they should be.
Yeah, as I said, I will look into it to get a specific, but
Thank you.
Believe it is by invitation, but before
Thank you, sir.
I would want to look at it specifically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I will let you know.
Thank you.
Anytime. Any other questions?
Are there any questions for Stephen among those who are listening at this point? Paul, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. No
And
questions.
David, you're still with us?
I'm still here.
Did, by chance, Doug Morgan, did you tune in, or are you there? Or Josh Lillard, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Carl.
So you are there. When did you come in, Josh? Of course, that we're not going to have had a quorum if there's just the four of us, but can you tell us, just for the record, when you joined us? Because we didn't have it early on. Have you been with us the entire time?
I have, about 3 after 1.
Okay, so we just never, I never did see it. Did you all see that come up that Josh was with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, in the record then, that means that Mr. Lillard, Mr. Jones, Mr. Horn, and myself, 4 of us, so that did not constitute a quorum of individuals there. So as far as a quorum, we did not meet that requirement. Are there any other questions for Stephen from those sitting in? If there are any public questions, you may address those to the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife in care of Commissioner Clark, if you have any questions about that meeting today. Otherwise, I want to thank Stephen and the legal staff for composing this, and I also want to thank him for getting that sent out to everyone for those who were unable to attend. and are now will then be able to watch his presentation. Is there any other presentation that needs to be made by legal staff at this time?
No, that's all I had prepared.
Commissioner Clark, is there anything that you'd like to add, or any district commissioner?
No, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I hear you just
I
fine.
was muted before. Thank you. No, sir, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, then if nobody else has anything, I will conclude this meeting and we're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you all.